first official episode with Kenny on the track. I see you're vibing with the intro music.
Put it.
Yeah.
I like it. Okay, Kenny.
Yeah, I hit up Kenny a while ago and was like, oh, like I need some type of intro music for the banquet hall. And of course, just with how the banquet hall is, I had to have the intro music be made by somebody I know. I couldn't just like have like some random intro music or whatnot. But it has the right effect because he was like, yeah, like he feels like it's something like get the conversation, get the blood flowing a little bit, ease people into the conversation, set the vibes right. But when he first sent it to me, here's how I know this episode ain't about Kenny, but I gotta sing Kenny's praises real quick because he emailed me this at like 2:00 in the morning randomly. There was no text, there was no warning. I just got to work the next day and I had an email from Kenny and it was like, oh, Kenny transfer you this file, take a listen. And I'm like, all right, let's see what Kenny cooking up. And then I saw the title of it and it was like Banquet Hall 1. I was like, oh, he sent me some podcast music like just in the middle of the night and I heard it. And then I texted, I was like, oh, this is funky. I like this. Like this is yeah, because I don't know, there's no other word that I could really use to describe it besides funky. Like it was like, nah, like I like this.
No, I do. I like that. Good job, Kenny.
Yeah, shout out to Kenny on the beats. 2 thumbs up from Devin herself. But welcome, listeners. Welcome to part 2 of the conversation with the one, the only Jocelyn, aka Devin, aka DJ Strawberry, which a lot of people were interested in learning more about.
And I don't know why. It's not that significant.
It's not that. It is that significant, but it's not.
It's like significant to the time, but like the story behind it is not. Like it wasn't anything like big. It was just because my hair was red.
Yeah,
short hair.
Yeah, if people looking for like, oh, like what's the story behind that? It's like, nah, like she had red hair. The DJ thing was just, I mean, it goes with your initials in reverse, but it really was just like DJ Strawberry. Let's just, it just came out the mouth. I don't know if we mentioned the President JD one, but that's another nickname.
Oh no, nobody knows about the President JD.
That's to this day.
Your VP.
To this day, your name in my phone is President JD, and there's a strawberry emoji right next to it.
Yours is VP Kyler, and it has the little Men in Black dude guy. That's like.
It has the what dude guy?
The little. Here, I'm gonna try to find it. I don't know if it'll show. Okay, like the little. You see the little guy. Come on, focus.
It ain't gonna show.
That little guy. That little guy right there.
Oh. Okay. It is way too small for me to see, but I get the vibes.
I'm gonna send you the emoji.
Listeners, y'all just never know. It's all good. But President JD, that's a nickname that goes back. Ooh, I rock with that. I rock with that emoji. So it do kind of look like Will Smith from Men in Black, though. I peep the vibes.
Yeah.
I think you got that nickname though during the presidential election, I think, because I was like, you should be president and I can be vice president. But we lost to Trump, y'all.
That's exactly how it happened.
Spoiler alert, we didn't win the presidency, but I still think we could have been a better president.
I honestly think so. I think we should get our campaign going.
Hey, I'm with it. There are some times when I'm trying to text you though, and I start typing in Devin, and then I'm like, oh, her name's not Devin in my phone.
Oh, I thought this was going somewhere. I thought it was like you like start texting me and then you decide not to text me. That's what I thought.
Oh no, that would be rude. I wouldn't even say that. That would be rude. It's like, yeah, sometimes I think about texting you and I'm like, nah.
At least you're honest, but dang. That's where I thought that was going. But yeah, VP.
Listeners, whether this is your first time tuning into the banquet hall, well, one, if it is your first time tuning into the banquet hall, I kind of suggest you hit that pause button and go back to the part 1 video and watch that one first, or listen to that episode first. It just make a little bit more sense watching part 1 than part 2. But hey, I'm nobody's mama here. I want people to listen to whatever episode they want to do first. But regardless of if this is your first time or last time, no, not last time, first time or your billionth time listening to the Banquet Hall,
Not
make
last.
sure,
Keep listening.
yeah, definitely not last. But make sure that you follow on social media at Banquet Hall Pod. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you hit that like button, the subscribe button, the notification button. You can leave a comment once you've done that. Any type of engagement, we looking for that. If you follow on IG and hit the link in our bio, there's a link to our Anchor dashboard for the Banquet Hall where you can support the podcast with some monies. I love those people the most. Not even gonna lie, there is a hierarchy of supporters. I love y'all all, but the people who are paid supporters, like, rock with y'all. But nevertheless, if y'all want Banquet Hall to reach other listeners, make sure you leave a 5-star rating, most importantly on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, to help others find this podcast. And yeah, let's keep the Banquet Hall growing. We had part 1 of this episode a couple of weeks ago. And for those of y'all who tuned in into the end, you will know that my very special guest, her phone died or was about to die. And so we had to cut out a whole end of the episode because of audio issues, location issues, lighting issues, forehead issues, all the issues.
I have nothing to say because that was so.
I was going to ask, what do you have to say for yourself? Because as I mentioned last episode, before we start recording, I was like, hey, what's your phone batteries at? He's like, it's fine. Then we get to the meat of the conversation and you're like, ooh, my phone about to die. But
Well,
you know,
it's on the charger right now.
we got a charger, y'all, and we still gonna have we'll have just as good of a conversation, if not better, than we had last time. And I'm looking forward to it. But to get things started, I think first and foremost, since this is a part 2, the first part 2 of the Banquet Hall podcast, I'm just curious, what have you learned about yourself, or what are some of those reflections that you've had since we had part 1 of this podcast?
Oh my gosh. So I went back and I was listening to it, and one thing I realized, like I already know this, but like it really, really hit me that like I really don't like hearing myself talk. Like I really don't like it. I'm like, is that what I really sound like? That's what people hear? People be talking to me? Like I just feel like my voice sounds like it was so weird. You know what I mean? But that's about it, really.
Your only takeaway from that whole hour and a half long podcast episode is that you don't like your voice.
Well, yeah, because everything else is like, like my life. You know what I mean? So it's like a constant thing that I'm always thinking about and I'm always reflecting on. You know what I
That's
mean?
fair. That's fair. I see that.
But I did like talking about how like, well, I wanted to clarify actually. I wanted to clarify some things. I had a lot of feedback, and they're like, people were saying that like I was making it seem like health class wasn't a thing because I said like I didn't know about ovulation. Which, okay, so let me clarify. Obviously, in health class, they teach you ovulation because they teach you a whole menstrual cycle, right? But what I was referring to was they don't teach you like all the details that come with ovulation. So, like, you learn that your body releases an egg and you get pregnant. But, like, do you know, or do we learn like what part of the uterus the sperm and the egg have to meet? I don't remember learning that. They have to meet in the fallopian tube, by the way.
Yes, I do remember that.
But I don't remember that. So I just want to clarify, like, I don't remember this stuff. Okay. And then something else was.
Well, before we get to something else, I just want to emphasize the American public school system and just the school system education in general. Even if it was a lesson in health class, my health class was taught by the PE teacher over summer, or the football coach.
You
the
know
football
what's
coach.
so funny? Me and my mom were just having that conversation about how like the PE teacher will really be like your history teacher or your math teacher.
And
And
like
it's
all
like,
respect, all respect. I appreciate the hustle, stepping up when needed and all that.
what
But
are
am
you
I
doing
really
here?
am I relying on Coach Winters to teach me about health over
What
summer?
are you
Neither of
doing?
us wanted to be there.
I just saw you and you was teaching me algebra, bro. Like you were teaching me like exponents. And you here now making me run this mile. Come on now. Like, come on, you know?
But what was the other thing you wanted to clarify?
The other thing I wanted to clarify was I did not mean to come for the doctor. A lot of people were saying that I sounded a little bit harsh, which looking back on it, I didn't think I sounded that harsh. I think I was
Yeah.
just being very honest. But for those that thought I was being too harsh, I'm sorry. Well, I'm not sorry, but like I'm sorry that you took it that way because I mean, if your daughter almost died, became a stillborn, I feel like you'd be upset too.
Yeah. I like I think that especially in retelling your story and just putting yourself back in that headspace, I think it's within a lot of reason to have it be an emotional response. Like whether it was harsh or not, like that was a harsh experience for you. So I mean
Yeah,
you're able to yeah, spit your truth, speak your truth.
but that's about it, really. I actually enjoyed talking. Like part one was really good, like really really good. Like Zeb was like said that he had like a lump in his throat, and everybody was telling
Oh,
me like how proud they are that I was finally able to talk about it because I've been like I've been wanting to talk about it for a long time,
yeah.
and I just never gotten around to it. Never had the opportunity to, never had the platform to. So I really do appreciate you opening it up for me to talk
Of
about it.
course.
It means a lot.
Of course. And of course looking forward to the conversation today, but also just looking forward to where you go beyond this because I think that like you just wanted this podcast to at least reach one person, and whether it's people that are inspired by your story, touched by your story, moved by your story, I think you've already reached so many people. And it's only been 8 days since the episode posted. Like it feels like a lot's happened over the last 8 days, but it's only been 8 days.
Yeah, it's been not a long time, but it's been like it makes it feel like it's been a long time. Like I looked at it um, because I want to listen again today before we came up, before we did this part, because I was like, I need to remember like what I said. And I was like, that was only 8 days ago.
Yeah.
Like that was only 8 days ago. So I appreciate that who listened. I love you all. Keep sharing with people.
Yes, yes. Please keep sharing. Matter of fact, everybody listen to this right now. Just think of one friend you can send this link to, have them click on it, save it to watch later. But just want to keep expanding the reach that we have at the banquet hall and want people to be able to, yeah, just hear these stories and be moved, be inspired, reminisce, whatever it may be. Um, we were texting earlier today about some of the feedback that you've gotten from the episode and just like things that people might have wanted to hear more about or topics that they wanted us to discuss more. And we kind of alluded to that at the beginning of the episode, but really people were intrigued by the secret stories of college and like the college lives. And yeah, I think that we need a TV show is what people were trying to tell us.
I think so too, because college Devin was wild. Now I am a saved woman and a child of God. But before then, oh my gosh, like, what was I doing? What was I doing? What was I thinking? I wasn't thinking. That's the problem. That's the problem. I came into college already a mess, and it just kept going downhill.
You were
Tell
still
me
a child
that.
of God then too. Like give young Dev some credit. You were learning, you're in a new college environment, new freedoms, you're around new people.
And I took that freedom and I ran with it. Oh my gosh, they gave me an inch. I took a whole, I don't know, I took a whole football field. Oh my gosh.
But I mean, along the way, it's growth. That's what college is about. And
Yeah.
so I want to give some runway before we get into part two of our conversation, just to kind of have some general chit chat about college and just see what type of UCSD memories might come up. But I think that whenever I talk to people about UCSD, especially people I mean, you're not that much younger than me, but you are a few years younger than me in terms of like years at UCSD. And
Yeah.
so I'm always intrigued about like who are some of those people that you felt helped craft who you are today that you encountered through college, like people that helped guide you along that experience, people that inspired you or motivated you, like who was keeping you going during your college years?
I would definitely say my older sister, for one, because she was 20 when I went to college. When I went to college, she had just graduated college. And so having her insight and her wisdom and her guidance while I was navigating through things and learning the whole being on my own thing and trying to figure that out and trying to find my identity and who I was outside of, being under my parents' roof and under their, supervision. Um, so she really helped me through that. So shout out to you, sister girl. Love you. And who else? You. I would definitely say you. Um, Aaliyah, Aaliyah, Jovi for sure. All they were like when I was going through a tough time, they were always there. You know what I mean? Um, and who else? Well, I would say everybody in sixth college, like in that whole that first year. Oh my gosh, like that bottom floor, we was lit.
It was a
Like
legendary
from
floor.
corner to corner, like
A lot was good. And one of the things that I wrote down that I wanted to make sure I actually meant to ask you this on part one, but there is a very specific song. And that's all I have to say for you to know. But for the sake of the listeners, there's a song that whenever I hear it, I have an image of baby Devin in my mind, just yelling this song at the top of your lungs power, like just really like in your little music video, like there's rain falling, like you're in the streets like singing. So the song If I Ever Fall in Love, a cappella version,
the
what is
acapella version. It
what
has
does
to
that
be.
song mean to you?
Oh my gosh. And the reason why I love that song so much, it's like insignificant. I heard it one day, I was in the car with my dad, and I heard it and I just liked it. That's it. And I fell in love with the song. It was so like, you know,
But you love that song.
I do. I really do. It's such a good song. And that's why Zara's name was almost shy. But Zeb said he didn't like it. But next kid, his name's gonna be shy. At least the middle name. That's why Zara's name is gonna be shy. It's such a good song.
It's
Everybody
an
should go
amazing
listen to it.
song.
Everybody should go listen to it.
Everybody should listen to it, but literally like
Acapella version.
acapella version, but that song is in my playlist because of you. And you made me like that song more just because like I
Yay!
literally there's a video somewhere on my phone. I think it was like me, you, Kenny, Jovi. It was at the apartment in La Jolla.
It was my
But
birthday.
oh, you already know what I'm talking about.
And I was sitting and I was like,
Yeah, just vibing, and I love it. I love when people vibe out to the songs that put them in a special place. So, um, yeah, literally anytime I hear that song, see that song, I'm like, that's Devin's song. Um, Obviously you and I, we need some type of reality TV series. We need some type of TV show because I think we have
yeah.
just good like back and forth chemistry. Like we've been laughing a lot this evening. Before
Yeah.
this episode even started recording, y'all listening, we busted up laughing at just a pure like misunderstanding of something we were reading. And we literally had to
Oh
stop
my
a
gosh.
old recording and start back the recording because we couldn't stop laughing. And
That was
hopefully, as
funny.
y'all are listening to us, y'all are laughing too, because otherwise, somebody probably like, man, when are they gonna get to the conversation? Like they keep talking about UCSD and
Listen,
shit.
this is the conversation. Okay,
Tell them
it's all important.
it is all important, and I think that's kind of what will be the lead in to the kind of meat of the conversation, because I alluded to it and talked about it a little bit the last episode, but you don't share. People in general don't share like the more intimate parts of themselves with people they don't trust and they don't have a relationship with. And I think that in college, it's a long 4 years on average for people. But at the same time, if you really are intentional about the connections that you're making, you can really build some meaningful relationships with people in college. And I think that over the span of just a few months, like you and I had a relationship that blossomed really
Yeah.
seamlessly. And a lot of it was just like, it was goofy, honestly. Like, we
Yeah.
laugh at stupid things. Like, I have so many Snapchat memories or videos or pictures where it'd just be like a Snapchat filter and we just busting up laughing at the filter. Like, those are the those are the moments that mean the most. Like, just when you have
Yeah.
that, like, just fun being around
Yeah.
community.
Yeah. I would say you, like the people that I like really like still like talk to, like you and Cleo. And Cleo is somebody that I wish I was closer with, like throughout the duration. Like me and Cleo were really close first year. And then we kind of fell off because I was like around Aaliyah and Jovi more. And then we picked back up, like I think like sophomore, no, junior year. Like right after like me and Zeb like got engaged, then me and Cleo started becoming like closer, and we're still close. Like that's my homegirl, that's my bestie. But she's somebody that I wish I would have been closer to
So it
in
was your
college.
junior year when you and Zeb got engaged?
Mm-hmm.
I knew it
Was it my
was
junior
during.
year? It was.
I was say I don't know. You would have to tell me. But I think that I remembered it being in college. I just didn't remember what year it took place. So why don't we start there? And not to get too sappy on the podcast, but when did you know that this was the one?
Oh my gosh, you want to know this whole story? Oh my gosh, let me tell you
Why
something.
not?
Let me tell you something. Me and Zeb were not supposed to fall in love. Let's start
Mm.
there. Okay. He was, so we were both in like this area, like, like when you go through really bad, like breakup, you have like the like stages of grief, right? So you're sad and then you're angry and then you kind of like get over it, right? And then you just wild out because you just don't care about anything, right? So we were both in that like we don't care about anything stage, right? Because he went through a really bad breakup, and as you know, I went through a really bad breakup. And so we were both in this space where we were like, whatever, we don't care, we're just gonna do whatever. And we met on Tinder. But the thing about Zeb was that he went to high school with Denasia.
Mm.
So him, Denasia, Sydney, he went to high school with Sydney too, and Carly went to high school with Carly. And they all knew him. And so I was able to get like some like background on him. Like, is he a weirdo? Is he not a weirdo? Like, I need to know if he's a weirdo before we link up. He wasn't a weirdo, so they said no. And so um, we were just kicking it for like 2 weeks, and like it was just very, very authentic. Like it felt like we knew each other from like for like ever. Like our first messages with one another, like we were already like roasting each other, like already roasting, already on each other's heads, like we was already talking mess to each other. So it already felt really like genuine, and like we had a bond already. And then 2 weeks in, I was like, dang, I
Two
love this guy.
weeks. Dang.
Yeah, it was 2 weeks, dude. It was 2 weeks. And the thing about it was just so much confirmation, like that God made us for each other, because there was this day we were late. That he was taking me on a boat for my birthday on the what is it like downtown? You know where like Wonder Spaces is?
Yeah, the hornblower
Yeah,
cruises and whatnot.
yeah. So what's the hornblower? That's what he took me on the hornblower. So he was taking me there
He got
for my
money.
birthday. He was taking me there for my birthday, and we were late. Um, and so we were walking up and down like the whatever you want to call it, the walking up and down the thing, and we ran into Mr. Chad, and Chad is was Zeb's mentor, and he knew Zeb since he was 13 years old, but they had fell off and they didn't talk for like I think it was like 4 or 5 years or something like that. Like they didn't talk at all. and they just ran into each other because Chad had his shave ice stuff, his shave ice truck there, and they started talking, and then the shave ice business is why we went to Arizona, you know. So it was everything was full circle. But yeah, and then that was just confirmation that like this dude really is my soulmate. And so yeah, I told him 2 weeks after 2 weeks that I loved him. And I don't suggest people do this. Okay, do not do it. We moved very fast, but also because I knew that God's hand was over it. But so I told him first, and I was so scared to tell him because I was like, oh my God, this dude's gonna think I'm crazy. He's gonna think that like I'm gonna scare him away. But he felt the same way. He was just scared to tell me. And so when I told him, he told me. And then look at now
Aww.
going on 4 years of marriage with
Y'all
a
are so
child.
disgusting.
So yeah. Do I suggest people fall in love after 2 weeks? No. But if it happens, pray about it.
Hey,
Definitely ask for discernment and wisdom, and use your wisdom and follow what you feel. But me, I was like, I guess I'm going 10 toes in. I guess we're doing this. I guess we were not supposed to fall in love.
but y'all were, and that's what makes it wonderful.
But we were, right? But us at the time, we were like, oh, heck no. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. This is not what this is. Like,
I feel that.
but yeah, he would come because at that time I was doing academic connections in the summer.
Mm.
Is that what it's called? Academic connections? I don't remember
Mm-hmm.
what it's called.
It's academic connections.
Okay. We were doing that. I was doing that. It was that summer. And he would come up because he lived in the Mesa. So he would drive all the way up to La Jolla to take me on a date. And then he would drive all the
Aww.
way back. Yeah. Yeah.
So disgusting. Let's move on. Anybody got time to hear all that sweet
Oh
shit?
my God, I love him so much.
Well, that
I could talk about
concludes
him all
this
day.
episode of the podcast. Thank y'all for
Oh. When you love someone, it is just so great. It is so great. When you love somebody, but then they love you in the way that you love them. It's so good.
Aw.
Especially after you've gone through so much stuff, like stuff where you didn't feel valued or you didn't feel appreciated
Mm.
or you were giving more than they were giving, and all the other stuff, you being, all those things. It's really refreshing. It's really, really refreshing because I was at a point where I was like, you know what's so funny? I was like, I'm never gonna date anybody their name starts with a Z, right? Because I was like, how I've never heard a Z name in my life except for this dude here, and I'm just gonna wipe off Z's. And guess what happened?
I will say, when I found out that your now husband, his name also started with a Z, I was like, yo, what is there? Is there a repertoire where I'm looking for a man whose name begins with a Z? Like, and especially like it wasn't a Zach.
No,
It wasn't a Z. Zebulon. And I rock with the name. I'm not even trying to like joke on the name. It's a wonderful name. It's just the fact that
in the
you
Bible.
back to back Z's.
Yeah,
End of the alphabet type shit.
end of the alphabet. It's a
But
different name.
we only gonna focus on one Z for the rest of time. So
Oh God, because that first one.
we'll save the breakup and relationship advice for another
Oh my
podcast. But
gosh, I would love to do that.
we're gonna have
I would
relationship
love to
corner
do
at the
that.
banquet hall.
Yes, let's do it. I would love to do it. I'd
I'm
bring
with
Zeb
it.
too. Zeb has
I'm with it.
some, bro. He has some heartbreak too.
Yeah. Once we get to 100 subscribers on the banquet hall, we will bring out relationship corner. We could talk through heartbreak. We could talk through relationships. We could talk through
Yes,
all of that. It's written in
yes,
stone now. That will happen after 100 subscribers. But for now, I want to get into part 2 of our conversation about your maternity journey and touch on some of the things that we discussed last episode that didn't make the final cut due to all types of just life happening.
And I
One
didn't have eyebrows. And that lighting was not making it any better.
Y'all, at some point in last episode, the part that we had to cut out, Devin transitioned to her car and her hair went away. It was just faux head. We saw on the camera. It was dark outside. You just saw a little yellow milk dud in the
I look
middle.
like this. Just, just
Audio
the
listeners,
thumb.
she just held up her thumb. Like she definitely just thumb. I was podcasting with a thumb. Banquet Hall
Thumb or
podcast
eye.
featuring thumb. But before I ask you this first question, something that I neglected to do the first episode,
Oh
uh,
no.
for those, what do you mean? Oh no.
What did you forget to do?
Well, I text you about this. I forgot to explicitly put a content or
Oh,
trigger warning in the episode. And
yeah.
so for anyone who was not unnecessarily triggered, but just being cognizant of the topics that we have been discussing and will continue to discuss can be triggering for some people who might have similar lived experiences or might still be going through something similar. So at the start of this video, there will be a screen that has a content warning as well as a timestamp letting people know where the bulk of the conversation will start. Of course, the episode title gave it away a little bit, but just trying to find that balance between being cognizant of triggers, but also making sure that we don't add to this conversation being something that's so taboo that it never gets talked about. Like, I think that there is a balance that we want to find there. And so, where I want to start this conversation or continue this conversation, I should say, because in your retelling of how you and Zeb got together, one of the things that was consistent was this conversation about faith. And when I first reached out to you about being on the podcast initially, you were wondering if you would be able to talk freely about your faith on the podcast and the role that faith played in your maternity journey. And I told you that I wanted to be as true and authentic of a story and an experience as it was for you. So, how did faith play a role just in your maternity journey? And that could be throughout your journey, it could be where you are today, just in general. Where has faith come up for you in this journey?
It was definitely like just waiting, not trying to do things in my time when I wanted it, you know, trying to take control and control things and make things have an outcome that I want. When instead I should have been focusing on God and what He had for me and focusing on His plans for me and the assignments He had and what He called me to do. Um, and so I think that my miscarriages was His way of showing me like wait for me, like I hear you, I hear you, and I will provide you the desires of your heart, but right now you need to wait, and right now it's not that time. And I just think that with Zara making it, even after the interventions and after everything, and even the miscarriages that I had after her, with those same interventions that I had in place with Zara, I think it really just emphasizes that point that like it's not the time, because those two miscarriages I had after Zara, I was getting ready to start a new job. And it just goes to show like, it's just you gotta wait on his timing for sure. Um, and I think it also caused me to like seek him more,
Mm.
because like I wasn't praying as much as I should have been. I definitely wasn't reading my Bible. We weren't going to church because we lived out of state. So I think it really just drove me closer to him. And just wanting to be better for my daughter, for her to grow up knowing who God is and knowing who Jesus is and what Jesus has done for us, like being able to grow in that, right? But because I can't teach her that if I don't really know myself. So it definitely put that kind of fire under me. But yeah, I would definitely say patience and going with his timing and just being obedient and being still, like
Mm.
like being still and waiting for him and letting him make his move. for sure. Because I was like, I'm gonna have a baby. I'm a baby right now. Like I'm gonna have a baby right now. Like we were talking about, right? Like we're taught that you have sex, you get pregnant, you have a baby, right? But that didn't happen for me. And it doesn't happen for. There's a lot of people out there that doesn't happen for. And yeah, yeah, definitely. That would be the number one thing. That's actually why I got patience tattooed on my arm, actually.
Really?
Yeah, it was after my senior, after my I wanna say my second miscarriage.
Mm.
I wanna say it was after my second one I got a tattoo. It didn't
Patience
hurt
is a
though.
virtue, as they say. You said what?
I said it didn't hurt though.
The tattoo didn't hurt?
No, none of my tattoos hurt really.
How many tattoos do you have?
I have six.
Six tattoos. Okay. Is patience the only one that you've gotten in relation to motherhood?
Yes, but I want more. I
What
want
else would you
more in
want?
relation. Me and Zeb, we want to get a tree, or not like a tree, so like a shadow, like of a tree and like the branch, right, with like two big birds and a small little bird, and then seven little birdies flying away.
Oh, it's beautiful. I think especially with the right artistic interpretation of that, like I think that'll turn into a beautiful tattoo. And that reminds me of something that we explicitly mentioned at the end of last episode that didn't make the final cut. But I mentioned that on Mother's Day this year, I think something that you tweeted had taught me a new phrase, and that's angel babies. And so I wanted
Mm-hmm.
to, because you mentioned this, the seven birds in that tattoo, and I want you to just describe to our listeners and viewers the concept of angel babies and what does that mean for you in your journey?
So an angel baby is a baby that was too beautiful for Earth, whether that is um, a stillborn, whether that is, an early infant loss, whether that is a miscarriage. It is a baby that is no longer here for whatever reason. Um, and so I have seven angel babies. And Zara is my rainbow baby. And so a rainbow baby is a baby that happens after a miscarriage. Yeah. And then there's another term, but I don't know off the top of my head. But yeah, rainbow baby and angel babies.
And I think it's important that as we have these conversations that we shed light on the different terminology that people can use to describe their experiences, because I think that especially around Mother's Day, I think more recently you start to see more posts encouraging people to keep in mind those who might be having a really difficult time on Mother's Day and might have complex
Yeah.
experiences with Mother's Day. So I think even just being able to understand like why somebody might be celebrating Mother's Day for their angel children, their angel babies,
Mm-hmm.
is very important. And
Yeah.
so, as you look at your experiences on Mother's Day, what has that been like for you? And I think, especially since Zara recently turned, how old is she?
She's a year and a half.
A year and a half. So, what has this Mother's Day experience been like for you? Like Mother's Day is coming up pretty soon.
Yeah.
You had your first Mother's Day with her last year. So what has Mother's Day been like for you?
I would say it was very surreal. Like I was really emotional on Mother's Day because it was something that I didn't think I was ever gonna experience that way. The year before that, Zeb got me flowers, but I had miscarriages. I didn't have, a live baby. But he still celebrated me and was like, "You're still a mom. You still created a life." Regardless of how long you had that life, you still created that life. Um, and so he was very just cognizant of how I was feeling or how I could have been feeling. Especially at the time, like I was on social media. I'm not really on social media like that anymore, but like at the time I was seeing all the posts of the
Mm-hmm.
moms with their babies and the fathers, shouting out the mothers of their children. It was very heartbreaking. Um, but I was the type of person, and I don't speak for everybody because I know a lot of people feel otherwise. I definitely wasn't that person that made other people feel like they didn't have, like that they couldn't celebrate in front of me. You know what I mean? Like, go ahead and celebrate. Um, but this last one with Zara, having Zara, it was like everything. It meant so much. Like, I was crying, and I was like, thank you for allowing me to celebrate this way, celebrating. And we did nothing special. Me and Zara, we was laying in bed all day and I was watching movies, but it was just being able to hold her on that day, and her being the one who did it. It was a very heartwarming, and it was very emotional. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna cry. I don't know. But yeah, it was very special.
No, that's beautiful. And looking forward to you being able to celebrate Mother's Day again this year. And in a few years from now, when Zara isn't telling you no, mother, or however what she say to you? She call
She
you
was like,
mother?
no. No, she called me mom.
Oh, yeah, mom. If she calls you
Mom.
mother, that would be insane. Uh,
Then we'll really have to talk.
Yeah, I would really
Then
have
we'll,
to talk.
yeah.
But you mentioned during last Mother's Day or couple Mother's Days ago, Zeb giving you flowers and like affirming your motherhood. And so one of the things that I wanted to make sure we had space to talk about in this part was the role of a partner when it comes to supporting someone who might be going through different issues related to infertility, whether it's miscarriages, stillborns, so when you look back at your experiences with Zeb, what were some of the things that he was doing that was really affirming for you or very supportive for you as you made your journey throughout your motherhood?
I think the hardest thing, and the thing that um, had the biggest impact on me and brought me more, like the most comfort, was when he would come to the bathroom with me.
Mm,
Um, because when you're miscarrying, you're bleeding, and it's a lot of blood. And I was so scared to go because I didn't want to see it. I was already in pain. I was already in a lot of pain. And I didn't want to, I was so scared to go, but he would go and he would sit there across from me, like the tub. He would sit on the tub and he would hold my hand, and he would just let me cry, and he would hold me and he would cry with me. He wouldn't rush me to move. He would just let me like take my time. And when I was ready to get up, he would help me, but it was like no rush. And it just really like reaffirmed like we were in it together. Like it would, like I had somebody with me who was there supporting me. Um, that even though I was the one who was physically losing the baby, I wasn't walking that road alone, that I had some type of support. And I think that was the biggest thing. He would bring me like heat pads, and he would bring me food, and he like took off work a few days at the beginning to kind of really just be with me. Because with each miscarriage, except for the last, I want to say, except for the last two of them,
hmm
I would take 2 weeks off of work at each time because it was so mentally exhausting. And so he would take those first 3 days off, and he'd just be with me. He would just lay in the bed with me and just like, constantly ask me, what he could do for me. And yeah, I wouldn't have been able to get through them without him, honestly. Like I couldn't handle it. I wouldn't be able to handle it.
That's amazing. I'm so happy that you had and have a supportive partner who just understands the value of being present. I think that shows like just him being able to understand that there's so much that he can't do, but controlling what he
Mhm.
can do and just being there for you, being in those moments together. Because I think that when it comes to consoling people, especially in loving relationships, sometimes there's this internal pressure to want to do the perfect thing or to do the right thing, but sometimes you just have to meet the person where they're at and be in that moment with them. So it
Yeah.
sounds like you had that space, and I'm so happy to hear that.
Thank you.
And so, in addition to partners, I think that friends sometimes struggle to figure out how to support a friend that might be
Yeah.
going through miscarriages or just going through difficulties with motherhood and pregnancies. And I know that it's a conversation that you might not even know where to start, where to ask, like whether you don't know
Yeah.
like how to intrude or how to ask questions, what questions to ask, what questions not to ask. And so I think I don't know if there's a specific question tied to it, but just in general, when you think of like your friend group, what are some things that you would have liked to see, or even some things that people might have tried to be supportive that wasn't so successful?
Um, well, I would say I don't, me personally, um, and I've talked to, since then, I've talked to other women who have had miscarriages. Um, One thing that we all like share was that we don't like it when you say like, at least it wasn't a stillborn.
Mm,
At least you didn't hold the baby. At least the baby,
mm,
XYZ. At least you weren't that far along. And I feel like that just makes it really insensitive. And it
very.
again goes into um, making it a taboo topic, right? Like, oh, it's not that big of a deal, which it is. It's something that is experienced, and people don't talk about it. And what, regardless of how far along the pregnancy was, regardless on if there was a heartbeat or not, regardless on there, um, if the baby was born or not, it was still a loss. And a lot of people, like once you get pregnant, you start envisioning like as soon as you take that like you see that positive test, you start envisioning how your life is going to change. You start envisioning yourself pregnant, you start envisioning yourself with a baby, and then you miscarry, and it's like, dang, even though I was only 8 weeks along, like it's like I don't know the words to explain that feeling, but it feels like disappointment.
Mhm.
And I just think it's really insensitive to say like, oh, at least it wasn't XYZ. So I suggest, if anybody knows anybody that's going through that, don't say that. Don't say
Yeah,
that.
that's such a wild thing to me that anybody could even at least blah blah. I don't think there is any at least statement to say to somebody
Yeah.
going through something like that. Like, yeah, yeah, that doesn't sit right with me.
Yeah. And another thing, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go for it.
Um, Another thing that was really hard for me was, it just seemed like when I was miscarrying, somebody else was pregnant.
Mm,
Like it just seemed like just everybody and their mama was getting pregnant. Like it was I wanna say it was, I had just miscarried. Like it was probably like maybe like 2 months that I miscarried. Um and Cleo had just got pregnant. And that was my best friend. And so I remember, obviously I was very, very happy for her. And I was really excited for her to be a mom, and I was really excited to, you know, meet her son. I was really excited to like be be an auntie, because that's my godson. So was really excited to be a part of his life. But in that same breath, it was like a dang, like I wish that I was pregnant. You know what I mean? Like I wish I was me, you know. So just those feelings are very, very natural and they're normal. And it just, you have to remind yourself, just remind yourself that, when when it's meant to happen, it'll happen. And, don't take away from those who are celebrating those, but also if you are feeling some type of way, be vocal about it and express how you're feeling so that because they can't you're going through this and you're feeling like this and they're sending you pictures of the baby's footprints and sending you pictures of ultrasounds and behind the scenes you're bawling your eyes out and you just feel some type of way, just let them know, be very, and I know it's a hard topic to say, and I know it's a hard thing to talk about, but I would say definitely just voice your needs, voice what you need, voice where you need support. You know how people always say what can I do for you? I would say just be vocal. Just be vocal.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. No, I think that makes perfect sense. I think just hearing you talk through that, I think that can easily help someone who's just trying to be a friend to someone. And because there's those times where like your friend might be going through something and you might not have that same lived experience, so you don't know how to approach it, and you also want to be sensitive to not approach it in the wrong way. So I think even just hearing about your experience is going to help people just understand how to navigate those situations better. And so I think to kind of tie all that together, and I'm kind of putting you on the spot with a question that I didn't necessarily prepare you for, but that's what podcast is for. But if I were to tell you to fill in the blank, I wish my friends would have, what would you say?
I wish my friends would have checked in on me more. And I don't blame them at all. It was a really how do I navigate this conversation? But it just felt like instead of, which I know this wasn't their intentions because it was probably she's grieving, I'm gonna give her some space. But at the same time, I'm I'm just going through this by myself. Nobody's checking in on me. No one's offering to bring me food. I haven't eaten in days. And not saying that that's their responsibility,
Right.
but just feeling cared for. You know what I mean? And yeah, I wish they would have checked it on me.
I appreciate that honesty, because I think that's a real feeling to have and a real desire to have. And I don't think there's anything wrong with saying that you wish people would check on you more, because I think that there's been even times this year for me where I'm like, dang, it's no one's responsibility to, but I do wish I had more friends around in certain times. And so I think that just being able to say that shows that you're very honest with yourself in what you need in the moment. And like you emphasize, it's not necessarily anybody's responsibility, but sometimes it is just nice to be proactively checked in on, proactively cared for.
Yeah.
And so the last question that I ended you with last time around that didn't make the episode, and the same question I'm gonna end you with now. When Zara is of podcasting age, she goes on YouTube, searches her mommy's name, and comes across part 1 and part 2 of the Banquet Hall podcast featuring Jocelyn. She also will come across all the relationship advice stuff too, but we're starting with these episodes first. What do you want to say to Zara, just thinking about the conversations that we've had, the journeys that you've been on? What words would you have for Zara?
I would tell her to take your time. Take your time. Be obedient in the Lord. Listen to Him because He will not steer you wrong. It may seem like you're waiting and you're waiting and you're waiting and you're asking and you're praying and you're sitting there and you're like, I don't see anything. My prayers aren't getting answered. They are. They're, but you just wait, girl, wait. Just be patient, be still. I want her to know that she has changed me and Zeb's life, like for the better. Like it gets to a point like you have a kid and like obviously you had a life before a kid, but then once you have a kid, it's like, dang, how was I living life? Like how did I have a life before you? Like I was missing such an important part of who I am, and that's being a mom. And I just want her to know that she makes everything. She makes everything. She's so beautiful. She's such a beautiful little baby. Oh my gosh, I love her so much. I love you, Zara. Oh my goodness gracious. I'm gonna go up there and I'm just gonna smuggle you.
Yeah, someone somewhere just grabbed a box of Kleenex. Just I love hearing the love from a parent to a child. Um, yeah, and I think as you were talking, I was just thinking of the moment that I found out that you were pregnant, that you invited me to the baby shower, and just how happy I was, just understanding the full scope of like, not even understanding the full scope, understanding some of the scope of what you had gone through with your pregnancy journeys. And yeah, just so happy to be able to be on this podcast with you, hearing you talk about Zara, hearing you share your journey with people. And so I close out every episode asking people one, advice for someone listening to this who might be going through similar situations as you or has a similar lived experience. What's a word of advice or piece of wisdom that you can leave folks with?
Ooh, ooh, ooh.
And it can be anything.
I would say that you're not alone. I would say you're strong, and then it's okay to feel the emotions that you're feeling. They're very valid. Don't let anybody take that away from you. Don't let anybody minimize your how you're feeling. Don't let them make you feel like it's not important, like it's not a big deal, like it's something you could just brush under the rug. And I guess that goes with anything really, not just miscarriages, just things that you're going through, just take the time for you. And if you need to separate from some people because they're not making you feel good, they're not bringing you support, they're not bringing you comfort, if they're making whatever it is that you're going through, if they're making it harder, and just separate from them. It doesn't have to be indefinitely. It doesn't have to be like you cut them off completely, but just take that time for you and to heal in the way that you see fit. And you do not owe anybody an explanation. Not one soul. You don't owe anybody an explanation. Put you first, take your time and heal.
Beautiful words of advice. And last but not least, where can people find you? If I'm listening to this podcast and I want to engage with you more on your story or want to talk with you more about something I might be going through, how can I reach out to you?
You can reach out to me. This happened last time. I said Twitter. I forgot my Twitter handle. I think it's
I gotta pull up
J
your Twitter
A
handle
C.
again.
I think it's JACY DEE_.
Correct. Mama Dev.
Yeah, yeah, that's my name, Mama Dev on there. And then my Instagram is head over hills, head over hills. What is he? Over, because we like that over here.
OVA to be specific
Over.
for the uncultured. Head over heels. What is the but Devin, Jocelyn, President JD, DJ Strawberry,
And all the other names.
all the other names that we throw in there. Thank you again for part 2 of this episode. I'm happy we made it through with full batteries, full hearts, not
Yay!
necessarily full stomachs, but we'll work on that.
We're getting there.
We're
Trust me.
definitely getting there. Listeners, hopefully y'all enjoy part 2 of this conversation. Make sure you leave a comment and let us know what you think of the episode. Share it with a friend, share it with your cousin, share it with your dog. Just throw on a YouTube video and let the dog sit.
Your dogs.
Dogs can count for views. Like, hey, we try to
They
get these
do though,
views up.
because Mamba be watching TV.
Exactly. So throw on the banquet hall real quick for Fido. Leave a 5-star rating. Don't forget to follow on social media at Banquet Hall Pod. And we'll be coming back soon with a slew of guests. We have a lot of great people coming to the banquet hall.
Yeah,
Y'all,
I'm so excited for everybody.
people not even ready. They not ready.
I'm so excited. I saw the lineup and I was like, oh.
And that's only the beginning.
It's
So
thanks
for getting the
100
hype
subscribers.
up. 100 subscribers. Yeah, like I said, I think we only at like 35 subscribers on YouTube. So if we could get that number all the way up to 100, then I will invite Devin back and we'll have relationship corner. So I can get back into my feelings as she did earlier on the podcast, talk about heartbreak and shit. I was like,
I got a lot of tea. I got a lot of tea on heartbreak.
all right, that's a Patreon exclusive episode if we got all the tea for heartbreak.
Oh my gosh. Kyler. That was tough. That was a lot.
It was.
What was that? That was all my first year.
Yeah, it was. See,
not even my whole first year. Well, kind of, but like it was mainly like the first like quarter.
Yeah, I was there.
Like my first quarter, oh my gosh, and messing it up, sir.
More will be brought to the table during our relationship corner, but for now, y'all, stay hungry and come get fed at the banquet hall.
Don't stay hungry.
Stay hungry for like life, like the grind, like not like belly hunger, like hungry, like stay motivated, like.
Okay, I'm thinking about food. So you said hungry. I'm like, don't stay hungry. Don't do that to yourself. Now, why would you do that?
I'm working on the banquet hall slogan. I think Kovu said something like "Come hungry, leave fed," something like that.
Oh,
we gonna get there. Can I close the podcast before you? Trying to close the podcast.
I have a story. It's a good story.
Trying to play the outro music. You talking about? You know what? Cut the music. I'm over here trying to close the podcast episode.
Close it.
And you over here? Oh, how is Kovu? Like, listen to the podcast episode. Oh, I'm just fucking around. All right, I'm gonna close it again. This is so funny. I'm just fucking around because it's funny, but thank y'all for listening. However I chop this ending up, we can't stop laughing and bringing up extra shit to talk about. So I'm gonna just hit play on this fire funky beat from Kenny motherfucking Jones. We gonna rock out and we will catch y'all next week where I interview Alexis Eubank, and it's a great conversation.